Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's a beautiful day here. I wanted to talk today about, I had a few questions about people who are starting to teach again, relatively new instructors, having some trouble with their music, asking, do you keep notes? I get that question a lot. Do you keep notes up on the bike with you? How do you kind of remember what your sequence is, especially for those of you that ride to the beat? So something that I learned when it comes to public speaking in general, or hey Matt, long time no see, or anything where you're in front of a crowd and you have to make a presentation, teach a class, whatever it may be. One of the best ways you can do your best and be prepared is to know forwards and backwards what you're presenting on or what you're teaching on. Same thing with your classes, right? So if you're presenting at work, you want to know that material forwards and backwards. If somebody has a question, you want to be able to answer it. It should be almost second nature to you. Same thing when you're teaching a class. So when you're planning your classes, the music shouldn't be an afterthought. It should work into whatever you're doing, whether you do choreography or not, regardless. You want it to match what your terrain is, what the feel of your class is, all of that stuff. It should really be ingrained in your planning process. So the music should not, let me repeat that, the music should not be an afterthought. You should never be walking into class 20 minutes before class, throwing some music onto a playlist and just going with that. Especially because we are expected at this point, the caliber of instructor has really, the caliber of what people expect from an instructor has really been increased in the past 5 to 10 years. We're expected to often teach to the beat. I think a lot of you do. If you don't, I'd love to hear. But in general, we're expected to be better than we used to be, and the bar gets raised higher all the time. So knowing your music is a big part of that. You want to know what the beat is, what the RPM is going to be. If you use monitors, especially because you have to cue to that, you want to know when the chorus hits in your songs, because that's likely where you're going to do certain intervals if you have them, or maybe change something up during the song. If you're just doing, a steady climb, it's a little bit less important. But if you're doing any sort of interval or any sort of choreography or anything where you're using the music, you want to know that song really well. So that's something that I've often seen, especially in auditions. You want to make sure, again, it's a song you know every single word to, and you know forwards and backwards. In your classes, though, it's still important. So that audition, especially if you're new, but if not, if you're teaching, you want to know where those big hits are in the song that you're going to use, where the climax is, right? How the transition happens. So maybe it ends abruptly and you want to have a song after that kind of fades in, right? So you can give them a little bit of transition time. If it's an abrupt ending of a song and then an abrupt heavy beat starting right away, it's going to be a little bit trickier to manage. You want to have that crossfade on in between songs. I know we've talked about that before, plenty of videos on that you can search for, but it is very important, again, that you know your music. So don't be afraid to reuse songs. For my first few years, got into the habit of creating an entirely new playlist for every single class. It exhausted me very quickly, burnt me out very quickly, and it's not necessary. You can pick and choose, especially as you get more experience under your belt. I have hundreds of playlists, probably thousands at this point, that I can pull from. So I'm not recreating the wheel each time. I talk about this in CPM, in my course. I talk about this with my clients. Recreating, repurposing from old things, old playlists, old profiles is going to save you from burning out. So make sure you do that, but especially with music, because again, you want to know music really well. So you also want to use new stuff, right? Or maybe not, but oftentimes we want to add a little spice and pick those new releases on Spotify and things like that. Hey, Teresa. And that's awesome. So do that. So maybe you have 10 to 12 songs in a playlist, maybe a little bit longer if you're doing a 60-minute ride. So maybe 8 of those are songs that you've used before, and the rest are songs that are from the new releases that you've listened to a few times at least, so you know them really well, right? So every morning I take my dog for a walk. If I'm teaching that day, what I'm listening to is going to be that playlist for the day. If it's not, it's a podcast, but if I'm teaching, it's always that playlist. the better I know it, the more comfortable I'm going to be when I'm up on that bike, and the easier it is to teach, and the more fun I can have, because I'm not thinking, right? I'm like, oh, how many choruses are in this song again? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? How long are they? Are they 30 seconds? Are they 45? So these are the kind of things that you want to think about, especially if you do a lot of intervals in class, like I said, choreography, all that stuff. So if you guys have any questions about music, I always forget how much of a problem this can be, especially for new instructors, because once you create a system for yourself, it's a lot easier. But if you're not there yet and you want some help, you have questions about it, drop them in the comments. I'll come back, check them out, and maybe I'll talk about it again next week. But music is key, guys. So if you just hopped on, go back and listen. This video's short. I made it short and sweet, but let me know your questions and we'll talk more next week. I hope everyone is hanging in there, thinking of all you guys. Take care and enjoy the day. Enjoy the sunshine. Hopefully you have some. Bye, guys.